today we are going to be doing a little bit of weaving. So let's check out what we have in our kit today. You should have a loom, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a minute. And you should have some different colored pieces of yarn and a popsicle stick. You're also going to need some tape and some scissors. Now before we get started, I have a cautionary tale. I was using scissors kind of irresponsibly and I cut my hand. So when you're using your scissors, you need to be extra careful because they are a little bit dangerous. And sometimes we forget that because we're making all these fun crafts with them. They're still a very important and dangerous tool. All right, so let's get started with our loom. Here we have some yarn already installed in the loom for us, and that is called our warp thread. And this is the thread that's gonna hold our weaving in place. And the thread we use to weave into the warp thread is called weft thread. So the first thing we're gonna do is you're gonna pick one color of thread to start with, and you're going to tape that thread onto the end of your popsicle stick. So you're gonna need a piece of tape. Just like this. Now, we're gonna get started on our weaving. Okay, so we're going to take our popsicle stick with our string on it, and we are going to start weaving. You're going to go under and over each of the pieces of yarn on the loom. So you're gonna go under and over each of the warp pieces of yarn with your weft piece of yarn. So the popsicle stick makes this pretty easy. You can kind of just weave it in there, and then you're gonna pull it straight through, and you're gonna want to leave a little tail hanging at the end before you start going the other direction. And you can cut these pieces of yarn to be shorter so you can do more of a pattern and you can alternate colors. But now you're going to go back in the other direction, and so you're gonna loop around this piece of yarn here at the beginning. So you're gonna wanna go under it since you went over it last time, and you're gonna go under and over right back the other direction. And then you're gonna pull that through, and you're gonna pull it kind of tight, not so tight that you pull all of the warp strings together, but you do wanna keep it tight, and you wanna push those new lines down close to each other. Now you're just gonna repeat this step as many times as you want until you wanna change out your color, and then you just pull that tape off the popsicle stick and change out a color. And you're always gonna wanna leave a little bit of yarn at the end for you to tape on the back of your weaving when you're done so it doesn't come unraveled. So this is my finished product. Everybody's is gonna look different. They're gonna be unique. So the next thing we want to do to take our project off the loom is to flip it over, and then we are going to cut straight through the warp thread, just like this. And you're gonna need to untape the pieces that are taped to the loom. And then you're gonna pull the pieces of thread out of the loom carefully so that your weaving doesn't come unraveled. And then we are going to tie each of the 2 adjacent pieces of yarn together of the warp yarn. So we're just going to tie the 2 adjacent ones together, and on this one that means that we're going to be tying 3 knots on each side. And I do a double knot so it doesn't come undone. And this is easier to do if you don't have an injured hand, which I hope that you don't. I'm just going to do this other side real quick. So it looks a little bit messy right now, but we are going to cut these threads a little bit shorter. First, we're going to take the ends of our weft yarn and we're going to tape them to the back of our weaving so we don't see them when we've hung it up. So you're going to tape them down and then you're going to cut off any excess yarn that's sticking out. You might need a couple pieces of tape. Painter's tape probably works better. Now we're going to grab our popsicle stick and we are going to use that to hang up our weaving on the wall. So you're just going to take that to one side of your weaving and tie those warp pieces of yarn to the popsicle stick. And I do another double knot here. And then when you're done with this, you can take any of your leftover pieces of yarn and you can use that to hang your popsicle stick up on the wall with a thumbtack. You're also going to want to trim off the bottom and the top pieces of yarn so that it looks nice and neat. You can make them as short or as long as you want. Alright, this is my final product. I think it's pretty cute. Join me next week for another craft night.